employee difference and some of its core concepts, I'm going to share with you something that I think might rub you the wrong way, might even offend you. And I want to share with you my objective. My objective is to help. My objective is to give you perspective. My objective is to get you to look in the mirror. And as I go through this, this is going to be a lengthy introduction. Yet, when you think about the employee difference, whether you're an individual contributor or a leader, the principles will apply to you. I'm going to make a very bold comment to kick us off. Sadly, there's never been a better time to differentiate yourself. Here's why it's sad. The pandemic should have brought people together. It did not. We had people who said the vaccine worked, and people who created these interpretations the vaccine didn't work, and we had all these different opinions, and then we had political elections, and ask a Democrat and a Republican to go have a really nice meal together. I bet you're laughing. Things have divided us. So what we have to do, especially in the workplace, is get back to a cultivation of investing in ourselves. See, there's never been a better time. And I love to share this. My daughter works for Cornell University. And when she got her job, I said, Bridget, part of the thing that you should do in your work is do 3 things. Show up early, stay late, and be helpful between those 2 timeframes. You'll never have to worry about a job. Sure enough, she gets the job. That's the feedback they gave her of why she got the job. And so when we're doing those things, we have the ability to create the employee difference. You have the ability to differentiate yourself from the rest of the organization, from the rest of the people. Now it's tough because it sounds like I'm asking you to separate from the rest of your colleagues and your teammates. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you not to sit at the water cooler and gripe. Let me start off with a little sarcasm. Do you know there isn't a board of directors, a management team in the world sitting down saying, we got to hire Bob? That guy is angry, and boy, he talks negatively. And I heard some of his opinions on what we're doing wrong at the water cooler. We should promote him. What somebody won't tell you inside your organization, in any organization, it's not a representation of your organization because I don't know where you're watching this from. I'll tell you, you have a perception. You have a brand. You are either lumped in with people or you separate yourself. No one will tell you that. I'll tell you right now. No one will come out and say it to you. No one will put out a memo. Just want to let you know Joanne Smith has really differentiated herself. Or that, Bob has got a terrible attitude. We're not going to promote him. Those conversations go on. They happen every single day. So what you have to think about is the power of differentiate. How do I separate myself? Let me give you a really good introduction to this. I remember years ago, I was talking to a veteran salesperson at a manufacturing client. And he said to me, when sales were up, man, look at me. I'm fantastic. And then when he had a down year, I said, what happened? He said, the economy went south. I said, oh, really? I said, that's interesting. I said, so the economy went south. So when the economy comes back, do you take credit for your sales going up or do you give the economy credit? It's a tough question. He was not pleased with me. The fact of the matter is, he's not being honest with himself. He didn't differentiate himself because I shared with him, good salespeople sell during tough times and bad economies. It's a mindset. It's the way you look at things. So let me start off with something called ducks versus eagles. Ducks quack and flock together. Eagles choose to soar above the rest. You will hear that in the section on ducks versus eagles. The Gallup organization reports that 71% of people are neutral or actively disengaged in the workplace. 7.1 out of 10 people are either neutral or negative. Only 29% are positive, are eagles. It's tough separating yourself. So I'm going to be candid. If you're in a group of people at your company and people are kind of griping and complaining, and you're just sitting there, and of course later somebody says, well, I was just listening. You might be guilty by association. Choosing positivity is not easy. I get it. So think about 3 types of employees. You have bleacher people, fencers, and players. Bleacher people sit in the bleachers, which is the water cooler, and they complain. Now, your first knee-jerk reaction in all of this might be, that's not me. I encourage you to be honest with yourself. We all have a little time in the bleachers. So sometimes being honest with yourself is really tough. Bleacher people complain. And oh, by the way, they recruit fencers. Fencers are looking at the people in the field and their heads are down and they're running the plays and they're sweating. I don't know if I want to do that. That looks like hard work. Come on, let's be honest. How often do we hear people say what? I just want to go in and do my job and go home. I just want to go in. Rarely do you hear someone say, I want to go into work, do my job. I want to go above and beyond the call of duty. I want to find time to learn on my own. I want to take my career to the next level. We don't hear that as much. I know some people do it. And so what we do is we try to deal often in these absolutes. Well, I'm not a negative person all the time. Don't be a negative person any of the time. It's a choice. The choice comes down to a daily choice. You make it every single day. You either make it consciously or subconsciously. See, I contend people who are negative don't sit down and say, honey, I got to get into work early to piss off some people. And I'm going to try to undermine my boss by 9 a.m. And I'm going to probably talk behind two of my teammates' back. So, can I take the good car? I want to get there quick. I don't think negative people do that. Yet negative people, which according to the Gallup organization is a certain percentage of that 71% I alluded to, they're the bleacher people. They're the ducks who quack. The fact of the matter is, we have people like that. The first reaction of everybody is what? It's not me. Sure it is. It's somebody who's watching this, and it's tough. It used to be me. I read a book years ago called Stress for Success by Jim Lohr. Completely changed the way I looked at things. I was a negative person. See, your daily choice creates your brand. It creates your power of differentiation, or it erodes your ability to be perceived as being different. See, when I joined IBM 40 years ago, I'm 60 years old as I do this video today, and I go back to those lessons. I had a 2.1 grade point average. Everybody else had a 3.8 or more because that was the requirement. I had some people swinging a really big bat for me. The fact of the matter is, I paled in comparison to my counterparts. They were smarter than me, still are to this day. But I learned something. I learned the daily choice. And my boss, Martha, said to me, she goes, every day you have a choice. You have to look for opportunities to differentiate yourself. And I love to share this story, and it's in the book, is I remember everyone would complain about IBM printers. And so I started to learn, I think it was the 3019 printer or the 3920. And it was a laser printer. And back then we had to exchange cartridges for the different fonts. So that's how old it was or how long ago it was. And what was interesting was nobody liked it. And it was in room 1420 on the 14th floor on 411 East Wisconsin Avenue in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And we ran this customer service center where we did presentations. And the reps would do presentations and we had presenters. And I was just a college kid who set up rooms. And I started to steal the printers on the weekends to go home and demo them and practice. And all of a sudden, my opportunity came. A IBM sales rep, Don Meyer, came to Martha and said, do you have anyone and can show me the 4019 printer? I got a client coming up to look at him right now. I don't know anything about him. She said, no, we don't. I interrupted. Defining moment. My daily choices led to this door that I could walk through. I said, Martha, I can do it. But if they're coming up, I don't have much time to set up. She said, Tim, this is a real customer. You're not doing it. I said, Martha, I can do it. Give me a chance. I can do it. I promise you I can do it. Don looks at her and goes, look, I don't even know how to turn the thing on. Whatever you can do is fine. And I could feel her over in the door watching the demo. And I go on and I'm doing the demonstration. They're asking questions. I'm answering every single question. Now, where I failed her and where I undermined her, not intentionally, but I made a mistake. I didn't involve her that I was doing that. And every Friday I took it at 5 p.m. It was back by Monday at 7 a.m. So it was never missing. Still wasn't my choice to make. And all of a sudden, she ends up saying to me, she said, well, Tim, I have to ask you a question. How did you know how to do that demo? And the client was really impressed. And actually, they even brought up, do you have line printers? I said, the 3820, are you running 2NX or coax? The IBM rep's looking at me like, how the heck does this kid know all this? But I learned something. My daily choice of learning led to this moment. See, we're too instant gratification today. Well, if I do that, do I get more pay? God, Just learn for the sake of learning. You never know what door is going to be presented in front of you. So the funny thing is, we end up getting done with the demo. I go into my boss's office and she says to me, she said, "How did you know how to do that?" And I said, "Well, I've been taking the printer home on the weekend. I've been stealing it." And she said, "Who gave you permission?" I said, "Well, nobody. I kind of bartering with Gordy. I would bring him lunch once a week up in the library, and who I had to sign it out from." And she said, and she was angry. And she said, "Tim, who gave you permission?" I said, "Well, nobody." She said, "Well, who gave you the thought to do this?" And I said, "You did." She said, "Excuse me?" I said, "You did. You said, look, I'm a 2.1. I'm not smarter than these other people. I get it." So every day I would hear people complain about our printers. So every day I would say to myself, there's going to be an opportunity. I'm going to learn this printer. Guess who became the IBM printer salesperson for Wisconsin while in college? Not because I was smarter, because I made the daily choice to learn. I showed up. And when I showed up early and got the room set up, I'm teaching myself I got more time to learn stuff that will position me for opportunities. Then everybody started to go to Martha. Could we get Tim to do a demo? And she was the best boss, along with someone by the name of Jodine, that I ever had, because they always fueled me. Sadly, today, that's changed. But the power to differentiate yourself, the power to have the employee difference has never been greater. Because you know what we talk about in management rooms? Is we talk about what we have to give people, what benefits and pay. We have to not just give to people, yet the employees have to give back. Now, one might take this out of context and say, "But you don't understand what we're going through." I get it. You are in charge of your career, though, not your employer. Your employer is in charge of training you to do your job. Anything above and beyond that is a gift. And if you give yourself the gift of self-education, you're going to differentiate yourself. You're going to be up for that next promotion. You're going to accelerate your career. So how do you go about doing that? I'm going to be candid with you. One of the most daunting things that I get all the time when we teach leaders how to coach is reception of feedback. Well, what do you do with someone who's negative? What do you do with someone who's resistant? Now, if you happen to be an employee or individual contributor, be honest. Really be honest. Do you think it's fun giving people feedback? I'll share with you, most leaders don't want to give feedback because they're just kind of sick of the resistance. Yet in defense of all of us, we really have not what? Been taught how to receive it. I want to introduce you to a concept called EAT feedback. Embrace, ask, and tell. Embrace is, first of all, Lisa, thanks for the feedback. Ask, what 2 things can I do specifically to improve based on the feedback you provided me? Lisa answers that, and then I tell her, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to put into action based on the feedback you gave me. So the embrace is, I'm interrupting my normal behavior of resistance. The ask is, I'm going to get further clarification and specificity. The tell is, I'm going to have ownership and accountability over the feedback. I never once said agreement or disagreement. See, the goal of feedback is to give you perspective. The goal of feedback is to protect your perception and your brand and your ability to differentiate yourself. If your ability is to always say, yeah, but, that grows your brand, not in the right direction. So part of doing this book and these lessons is to give you perspective. Some of you will shut this off and say, "Guy's a jerk." I'm okay with that. Some of you will say, maybe I do need to look in the mirror. Some of you might be holding up the mirror right now and saying, "You know what? He's right. I got to do this." And those are the people I hope I reach. And it's tough because I have a coach. I have an EQI coach. I have a mentor. And so what that leads us to is something called grit. Grit is passion and perseverance and discipline to pursue something over a lengthy period of time when there's change and challenge. See, if everybody would understand this, we'd be better off. See, we have a decision. When our companies are faced with difficult times, when my company is faced with a difficult time, what do people think? Do most employees say, "Well, I got to stick around to help the organization see this through"? That's fight. Or do most people choose flight? I better get my resume ready. I got to protect me. I'm not saying that's a bad decision. Yet grit is the disciplined pursuit, passion, and perseverance over time against change and challenge and difficulties. Since the pandemic, there's a lot of companies who have gone through a lot of difficulties, especially with supply chain or healthcare organizations. Grit is tough. And there are people who have done research to show that this is the number one determinant of success. See, I once shared with somebody who was complaining about their organization, and they were going through they're going through a very trying time, still are to this day. And I said, well, how long has it been like this? Well, the last 3 years. Something's got to change. So how long have you worked at the company? 20. I said, so before this, how would you describe it? Oh, things were great. So I smiled at her. I said, so let me understand, you've had a great endeavor, a great experience at this company for 17 to 20 years. She said, yeah, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? I said, yeah, it does. I said, but these are extenuating, unique circumstances. You have the ability to develop grit. I shared with her, I said, if every one of your competitors, including you, always had good times, always had happy customers, how would the organization ever differentiate itself? The tough times give you the opportunity to reveal your character. See, a lot of times people say, well, tough times, reveal character. No, they help us also build character. Tough times, they're tough. So I remember during the Great Recession, no one was hiring coaches. No one was hiring trainers. And I remember when I had a gentleman who really, in a business venture, really screwed me out of a lot of money. And I remember the guy who now mentors me, one of our investors in our company, our only investor in the company, said to me, you're going to find out how good you are. I'm like, what does that mean? I was angry. He said, are you going to practice what you preach, or are you just going to preach what you don't practice? Oh, did that get under my skin? But he was right. And I had to develop grit. I paid off this large note of debt that I had because this person screwed me out of a lot of money. So grit is perseverance and passion over a period of time. So fear. A lot of people have fear. So I'm going to ask you something. Do you have fear? And fear is really, when you think about the acronym of fear, it's failure to engage. So the F and the E is failure and engage. And to act, that's the A, act upon your reality. If your reality is you're stuck and you've been passed over from promotions, then you need to change things. You need to learn something different. If you're going through difficult times and you're not making as much money, okay, embrace it. You're not making as much money as you would like. What are you going to do to overcome? How are you going to embrace that fear and overcome it, attack it? See, here's the funny thing. Organizations are not in charge of you. They're in charge of providing you employment, training to the job, benefits, all those good things. And navigating these companies is not easy, especially during these times. What if everybody on your team that you report to right now was really positive? Wouldn't the workplace be better? So think about the employee difference. What if everybody was praising each other? What if everybody really listened to each other versus interrupting and thinking about what they want to say while you're talking? What if there was a power of differentiation throughout the whole organization? Would the workplace get better? So you have a choice. That choice is a daily choice. How do you fuel your mind? When you get up, drive into work, if you're virtual, what do you do to prep your mind to be positive, enthusiastic, inspirational, to really engage? It's tough. There's no getting around it. It's tough. So when you think about the employee difference, there is never a better time for you to invest in you. If your organization is training you to the job and beyond that, awesome. Embrace it. Take it. Find time to learn even outside the job if you can. Go above and beyond the call of duty. Let me share this with you. As I'm recording this and we're producing these materials in this book, I met a great organization out in San Diego who does assessments. And we were talking, and I told myself, even while I'm producing this, I don't need to get certified in DISC, which is a behavioral assessment. And after she talked to me, I'm like, you know what? I do need to do this. Actually, no, I don't need to do this. I want to do this. How will this help me? All of a sudden now this relationship is evolving. An incredible potential business relationship. We're building products on how to coach to DISC. Wouldn't have done that 6 months ago. So when we're learning statistics and research show we're happier. Yet if we start with our daily choice of, I just want to go in and do my job, and I just want to go home. I get it. There's stuff at home. There's kids at home. There's spouses at home. I get it. The fact of the matter is, the employee difference starts with you in a decision. Do you want to change things? Do you want to improve things? If you just want to go to work and come home, remember one thing. If you have two types of people, some who are progressing, some who just want to do their job and go home, and this may not even be a conscious decision for some people. It may not be for you, but you might be exhibiting that perception. That's why we produce this, to give you the opportunity to think about, how do I differentiate myself? How do I go to that next level? How do I invest in myself? And even if you don't get your destination in the time frame you want, you will be happier on the journey because you're fueling your mind positively. Good luck to you.